Okay, hi everybody. Um, Thanks for getting those exams in by Wednesday. If there's anybody who hasn't um, yet gotten theirs in, please email me, okay? And I'll get started on grading them as soon as I can. Um, I have a teaching assistant here with me today. Smoke, I want to say hi. Oh, hi, Kitty. All right. Anyway, today's lecture notes are about how having a stigmatized identity makes navigating the social world difficult, and then about what kinds of management strategies are used by stigmatized people to address those difficulties. Um, if the stigma is apparent or known, then the individual exists in what Goffman calls a discredited state, meaning everybody already knows about the stigmatized aspect of their identity, and so there's not really anything to hide. Um, if the stigma is apparent or known by others, um, then the individual exists. Oh, I already said that. um, so if the stigma is known, the individual is discredited. If the stigma is not apparent or known, then the individual is merely discreditable. So those with discredited identities usually engage in what Goffman calls covering, which is an attempt to minimize the effect of the stigmatizing condition when it's known about by others. To the extent that someone with a stigma remains merely discreditable and not discredited, they can manage their stigma through passing, which involves the concealment of the stigmatizing information. As you may have figured out from the number of pages each stigma management strategy gets in the book, Goffman is much more interested in passing than he is in covering. He spends so much more time parsing out the interactional details of passing. And I'm honestly not sure why, since I think both covering and passing can be super interesting, but there it is. Anyway, a lot of different factors influence our ability to pass. So not everyone with a stigma even has the option to pass. That is, not every stigma is concealable in the first place. But most of us have a stigmatized aspect to our identity that we would conceal if we could, and often we can. So I can't remember if I told you this earlier in the semester. Did I tell you I cheated once when I was in college and got caught? Yep, I did. The school had an honor code, which I had violated. So there were disciplinary consequences. It was very traumatic. And I was just young and stupid and shouldn't have done it. Anyway, I'm sure that a record of this information still exists somewhere in a file folder in a dusty college records office somewhere. But you would never have known if I hadn't told you. That's the kind of stigmatizing information that is pretty easy to pass with. And I think you would agree that I'm doing an especially good job at it, since I've had a lot of academic success since then. And in fact, I've even ended up in a profession where part of what I do is discipline cheaters myself. So there's nothing apparent about that stigmatizing aspect of my identity. No one can see it from looking at me. And in fact, from looking at me or from knowing information about who I am, they would likely assume I had never done something like that. No one knows unless I tell them. Not all stigmas are like this. So passing strategies are going to vary depending on the characteristics of the stigma. And we'll talk about those characteristics and the different passing strategies that go with them on Wednesday. So that's the news for today. Email me if you have any questions about your final paper. You should all be starting to work on it now. I hope you're all managing. I know things are tough, but I also know that it's amazing what we can get used to. Anyway, this is still nowhere near optimal, and there are so many reasons why we are all stressed and distressed these days. So be gentle on yourself, stay safe, and let me know if there's anything you need, okay? So hang in there, Huskies.